All right, so welcome to part two. It's a Saturday morning, and I'm already tired of being here, and that's not a good thing. Not saying that I wanted to be here in the first place, but I woke up this morning and I'm going, all right, we need to figure out what in the world's going on. Because quite honestly, I'm a little bit frustrated because we don't really know what's going on. There are numerous surgeons we've been talking to, and as I stated in the first update, we're working on getting a second opinion. Needless to say, I've been in this bed over here, now, and in this room for, since Friday afternoon. And I haven't walked out there once. So hopefully I can get untethered at some point today and walk out. I really, really want to go and see my boys. Sorry. My mom came down to visit yesterday, and that was wonderful, as always. And she was going to stay, but decided to head back to Prescott because we know that for sure nothing is happening until Monday. And hopefully today we will get the results of that second opinion from the doctor at the Mayo Clinic in Phoenix that we're waiting to hear from, and I'll have a better understanding. Because I know, as weird as it sounds, there seems to be a lot of, or maybe a little bit of politicking going on with some of this. And my dad came in late last night, and we were discussing everything that we had been talked to about, and there seems to just be swirling a lot of confusion, and we can't help but wonder if some of that confusion happens to be the fact that my surgery originally was done here, and if a mistake was made, the liability factor, which would explain why I'm in ICU, because there isn't any immediate danger. And I was told there wasn't any immediate danger. I was just told, doing that thing with my fingers, I was just told that the reason why they had me in ICU was because, well, there is a risk. So because there is a risk, it's best to have you in a location where if something goes wrong, you're in the exact place you need to be, and that's ICU. But it all seems fishy. Anyways, first off, not that I want to get totally political on all this, but if this is this messy now, I don't know, I don't want Obamacare. I mean, at least I have people now that are watching out for me. You know, my cardiologist, and I want to trust the surgeons. I don't know them. My original surgeon's out of the country right now. But, you know, these are still individuals that ultimately have their careers at stake and on the line and are trying to figure out the best way to handle this situation. So I'd rather be taken more care of and being cautious than a circumstance where, you know, there's a bunch of individuals that are now working for the government and they're not even making any decisions about what's going on with me and my body. So just wanted to throw that out there. Anyways, here's where it gets really interesting. This is the CT scan from the hospital on Thursday. Okay. Now, my understanding is we don't have any old CT scans of my heart from just after the surgery. So what they're seeing on this, they don't know how long it's been there. Now, I'm a firm believer that, follow me on this for a second, I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason, okay? There was a reason why my back got hurt, a reason why I went over to Evolution to Danny to work out, and he says, I think you got a rib out, go see your chiropractor. There's a reason why my chiropractor said, if it still hurts, and it did, go to the emergency room at Oro Valley. There's a reason why I couldn't get my general practitioner on the phone, and I ended up going there to the ER. And there's a reason why they did a CT scan instead of an MRI, which is what I was looking for, or at least is what I was told to get. Okay, now, here's where it gets really interesting. February of 2009 is when I had my open heart surgery. In July of that year, we took our first trip out of just our first trip after the surgery. And we went to California, which is usually what we do over the 4th of July. and I hadn't had my blood pressure medication wasn't regulated appropriately. And I can tell the difference now in terms of pain when things happen. But I ended up having some chest pain, and my blood pressure was really high, and I freaked out. I mean, why wouldn't you freak out? So my dad and I, on the 4th of July, went over to Lakewood Regional Medical Center, and they ran a CAT scan, a CT scan. And when they came back, they said, "You have a leak." 2009. So my dad and I are sitting back going, "What?" It just seems odd. So they called in a cardiovascular surgeon who had the day off, obviously. He looked at it and said, "No, there's no leak. That's leftover residual contrast from the surgery," and sent us on our way. So, flash forward now, it's 3 odd years later, in the emergency room at Oro Valley Medical Center. No joke, I'm sitting there in bed, and I'm saying to myself, waiting for the results of the CT scan, because all my blood work came back fine. Everything on my blood work was fine. I'm healthy. The back was just muscles, which is still kind of bugging me, by the way, but I've been lying in this crappy bed for over 48 hours now. So, I'm lying there in bed before the ER doctor at Oro Valley Medical Center comes back, and I'm thinking to myself, I bet you $100 he comes back and says, the CT scan shows a leak. And sure enough, 10 minutes later, he walked in and he did. And I started laughing. Okay. Now, he said that he compared the CT scan, the one he had in Oro Valley, to some older ones. The only older ones we had were 2 that were done in 2009 over my hematoma, and they didn't go up high enough. They didn't show all of my heart. They only went up and showed my valve and a little portion of the aorta, so they didn't show everything. Okay, so my point is, my dad brought with him the 2009 Lakewood Regional Medical Center CT scan. Now look, I'm trying to make things interesting for myself because I'm bored out of my mind, and I'm trying to keep my mind off of the fact that I might have to open this whole thing up again and go through all that recovery. But I find this very interesting, and I think that the doctors are, because my point being that if this shows the same thing that this does, it means that the leak, or whatever it is, was there 3 years ago. And perhaps all of this isn't new or isn't the problem that they say that it is. Because what they're concerned about is infection. They want to know why there's a hole in the graft, because there shouldn't be. There shouldn't be a hole in the graft. I mean, basically, would you like a diagram? Okay, so, can you see that on there? There we go. Okay, so this is my heart right here, right? That little line right there represents my titanium valve. Okay. My original surgeon left a little bit of the original root of my aorta, and then she sutured this, and this is the wire mesh graft. Okay. Get the lighting right. And then she sutures it here, and then it attaches and goes this way, my regular homegrown aorta. So normally when you have a leak, it's usually around the suture lines. My leak apparently is like right here. And all around my aorta are blood clots. So when I got out of surgery originally, I had to have some blood transfusion because I lost a lot of blood. That could all be residual from the original surgery in 2009. Or it could be blood that filled the area, which I'm in no danger of having it hurt me. If it grows too big and bursts, it's a problem, but I could get fixed. I'd end up in the ER, I'd end up here in ICU again. But there's so much scar tissue that any bursting that takes place, it's all contained. So if there was a leak back then, right after the surgery, it could have been feeding all of this whole time. Because this little hole here doesn't happen. That's what's got everybody so perplexed. The concern that they had was that perhaps there's an infection. They're thinking that maybe this is infected, and that's why the hole is there, because there's no other reason for a hole to erupt in that spot. Now, there is some talk that right before they close you up, when they put a graft in, the stent graft is what they call it, but it's got a sheen over it and wire and all this, and your body's supposed to grow over it. Right when they're done, they pinprick a hole, and they let the air out, and then they suture it up, and then they seal you back up, and then you wake up and go through the process of recovering. There is some speculation that maybe that suture came undone. Now, if we go back to the '09 one, and it shows that leak that the doctor said wasn't there, and all that residual stuff, well, we know what happened. Either it wasn't sutured or it came undone right after the surgery, and I've been leaking for the past 3 years. Which raises the question, okay, how much more is it going to do? And if they can confirm it's not an infection, then perhaps I'm in a better position for them to go in orthoscopically and not open me up. Because I think the fear is if there's an infection, they've got to open me up and put a new graft in. If there's no infection, they could do it otherwise, because they don't actually have to go in there and look at it. They can just, stick whatever, throw a bolt on it or gum or whatever they do. So there you go. I don't want to be here. I'd much rather be at home with my boys. Hopefully today they're going to untether me and I can go out and see them, because I miss my boys terribly, and it's all been very surreal that I ended up back in here, and it's frustrating because I have my cardiologist, but he's not a cardiovascular surgeon. My original cardiovascular surgeon, who I trust, is out of the country, and I haven't landed on one person to deal with all of this, and so I'm really praying that this guy at the Mayo Clinic can shed some light along with this, which, by the way, we made a copy of. And I have the original. My dad and I tried playing Indiana Jones. We were looking at both of these on his MacBook, and I don't know what the heck I was looking at, so I wanted to see if I can find the right images and compare, but I'm not a doctor. I'm a talk show host, and right now I'm in a hospital and don't want to be here, so anyway, I'm going to go back to watching Pawn Stars on Netflix and wait for my dad to arrive, and I just brushed my teeth. I haven't shaved, and put some deodorant on because I haven't showered. Yeah. Whatever. It's so funny, I get no attention in the ICU because I'm totally fine. So the nurses all leave me alone. They don't come and visit me. They're supposed to visit constantly when you're down here, because they did before when I had my heart attack, and also when I recovered, because I recovered down here, and I came in here when I had my first heart attack. So they're supposed to be constantly coming in, but it's really, really funny because they don't bother, because I'm just sitting here I'm bored. What's on the 14 channels of television that's on the little tiny TV up there? So, all right. Well, as soon as I know more, I will I'll put it up here and try to get you up to speed. So, thank you. I can't tell you enough how much I can't tell you how much it means to me, all the well wishes that I've been getting on Facebook. Every time I hit my email, it's been really comforting, so thank you. So, all right. Yeah. I'm going back to Pawn Stars. I hope you have a good weekend, and I'll get you all updated soon. Thanks. Bye.